Hi guys, and welcome back to Daisy Chain Principles, or welcome if you're new. My name is Livy, and today we're going to be diving into how I thrive as a homeschooling parent in a little 800 square foot apartment. But first, I wanted to introduce you to my good friend Tiffany over at The Happy Homeschooler. Tiffany is a second generation homeschool mom like myself. We both also share a love for reading and a desire to instill a love for reading in our children. Today, she has released a special video specifically about outdoor activities for you to enjoy with your kids. This is perfect for the summer and well into the fall as well. Her channel is rich in all kinds of wisdom and tips and day in the lives and book recommendations. Be sure to go check out her video. You do not want to miss it. A little bit about my story and what led up to living where I am and why I homeschool the way that I do. We all know you can homeschool anywhere, anytime. People homeschool in bed, or they do it on the road, in the car, at the kitchen table. If you have a designated classroom, awesome, but you do not necessarily have to have one to homeschool really well. Growing up, me and my 3 siblings were homeschooled at the kitchen table. We would occasionally move into the living room or the couch for read aloud time. For the most part, that was very functional. The only thing that made that really challenging was when 2 to 4 of us had individual studies we were trying to do at the table, and we would distract each other and then get punished for distracting each other. So that would be the main thing that I wanted to change with my own children, is I wanted them to be able to get away from everybody for focused study time. So when I first started to homeschool my oldest, Silas, we were in a house. I was married, and it was a 1,000 square foot home, and we homeschooled at the kitchen table. Homeschooling at the table was fine, but all of his materials were shoved into an armoire, and I couldn't keep it organized, and I didn't know how to get organized, so it was very frustrating. We lived there for 5 years. The last 2 years is when my son was old enough that I was homeschooling him. Then we moved into our dream home. It was 1,200 square feet on 6 acres, plus a finished basement. So we dedicated that finished basement to being a study. So we wanted wall-to-wall bookshelves, which never quite happened, and then a large table just dedicated to class time. The only unexpected downfall of this is that everything besides homeschool materials was upstairs. So if someone needed to use the bathroom, if we needed snacks or drinks, or maybe some odd supplies for an arts or crafts thing that we don't normally do, we had to run upstairs for all of that, which you might argue in a school it's normal, right, to need to run across the hall or whatever to use the bathroom. But I was kind of spoiled in that being homeschooled, you're used to just being right there in the kitchen. Everything you could possibly need is arm's reach or just really close. The biggest gain of having a separated classroom was the solitude and the quiet out of respect for the student. That was huge. Fast forward 2 years, and I got a divorce and moved out of that home into where we now live, which is an 800 square foot duplex home. So obviously we were back to just homeschooling at the kitchen table, except this time, because my place is so little, our kitchen table is 2 feet long instead of 5 feet long. I decided to have a positive attitude about the challenge, and we are thriving. Let me break down our kind of daily routine and where we are in the house during that routine, and then I will break down how everything is organized so that it is as functional as possible. We always start our homeschool routine with read aloud time. We call it read aloud time. Some people call it morning basket, and we do that in the living room. I invested in a small sectional, which I will link below, that I measured before I ordered it, and it is just the perfect fit for our living room, obviously to have company, but also just so we can cuddle, we can stretch out. or they can be on the floor in front of the coffee table. Typically, they either have snacks or sensory and fidget toys while I'm reading out loud to them. After that, we move to the kitchen table where I teach individual lessons, one child at a time, and I send the other child out of the room, typically either playing outside or on their tablet or playing with toys, so that that student can have really focused, respected, quiet time. If we are doing something where my oldest can be working by himself while I'm working with my younger one, Daisy, so that we're getting more done in less time, then I might work with Daisy on my bed. But I feel like that separation and quiet is really key in being respectful of their study time. Now, because my table is so small, there's really simply not room for us to spread a lot of materials out. Like, once my child gets their textbook out, that's like half the table. So to create more space, we each have our own individual rolling carts. We bring it up next to the kitchen table and we just take things directly in and out of it onto the table. This has been so key in a tiny space, which moves us into the last section of this video, which is organization. These carts are huge. It gives the kids a sense of responsibility and ownership because they each have their own carts. They're responsible to put their own things back. It's a fun and low cost way to keep things organized and handy. Very rarely am I okay with things being left out on a surface, be it the coffee table, a side table, the countertop, or the kitchen table, because our space is simply too limited for that, so it looks really cluttery really quickly. That's why you find things like rolling carts and shelving all over my house. My best tip for organization by far is to store up, not out. So instead of buying more boxes and bins, invest in more bookshelves like what I have behind me. It is going to be more space efficient and also more aesthetically pleasing and beautiful to the eye. I think wall-to-wall books is gorgeous. That is like all I want to see in my house everywhere. Now, I also use, and I'll turn the camera here, I use the bookshelf to store everything else for school too. It's a little bit messy right now, don't mind me. I'll actually take this down and show you. This is like, well, this is actually plugs and chargers, not to do with school so much, but they're labeled bins. So arts and crafts supplies, Play-Doh, fidgets, Jenga, more arts and craft supplies, coloring, which is all messy right now, some board and card games, more fidget stuff, and puzzles. You probably are already aware that those things are very difficult to store in an aesthetically pleasing way. Not only aesthetically pleasing, but just in an organized way where you can find your stuff. I swear by this system: bookshelves and labeled bins. And lastly, and I know none of us want to hear this, myself included, but there is no system so perfect, so well organized that you don't need to do an overhaul and clean it out on occasion. I actually try to do an overhaul quarterly because it just keeps it nicer. It goes a lot faster, takes a lot less time to do it. That's not to say that I actually do it quarterly, but I try. I choose not to get frustrated about things ending up in the wrong bins or some trash being thrown in their cart. Dealing with more messes is the cost of having kids, and there's way more gain in having kids and homeschooling them yourself than there are frustrations and downfalls, I promise. That's all I had for you guys today. I so hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to go see Tiffany over at the Happy Homeschooler. You don't want to miss out on it, and I will see you next time. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, you'll want to be sure to check out my free video class, Homeschooling Excellent Time Management. I've linked it below, and I'll be giving away the 3 primary ways that I am able to homeschool consistently as a single working parent. It's only 11 minutes long. Be sure to view it. I'll see you next time.